Anita. Hello, lovely. Let's see. Let me just sort this out. Hello, everybody. Oh, hi, Anita. Hi, Nina. Hi, Henry. Let me know if you can't hear me, okay? Good evening, everybody. So here I am tonight in my little princess finery. I hope you like it very much. I was actually given this sparkly bit for Christmas, as my sister-in-law said if anybody could wear something sparkly like this, then it was going to be me. And I thought, when on earth am I going to be able to wear this? And now, of course, I have found an occasion. Isn't that absolutely fantastic? Who knew that, what is it, what are we going out? All of the end of March. 3 months after Christmas, I'd be finally being able to wear my sparkly Christmas finery. So thank you to my sister-in-law for getting me this wonderful gift. I might take it off at some stage because I feel a little bit silly and it's not, well, anyway. Hello everybody, good evening. For those of you who've already joined, if you have not, well, you all know what I'm doing. I'm reading from 1001 Arabian Nights. For those of you who have forgotten what it's about, Scheherazade has married a king, Shahryar, who's a little bit pissed off, quite frankly, and has got a thing for women at the moment because his ex-wife, who he murdered, was doing the naughties with her favourite slave, which he didn't like very much, and since then he's been having a hard time appreciating the more beautiful sex. And so Scheherazade has married him also and is now the queen, and to keep herself alive she tells him a story every evening with a huge cliffhanger in it, so there are often stories within stories, as we will find out tonight. And within these stories within stories, at the end of each night when the dawn begins to arise, she stops the story in the middle of it so that you would be wanting and willing, and he, actually the king, would be desperate to hear the rest of the story the next evening. So what he will then do is he'll spend the day in his great hall and have all his meetings with his wazirs and his dignitaries and lords, and then at the end of the day he meets with Scheherazade and does the things married couples do and enjoys himself very much, and then she tells him a story to keep herself alive. Now tonight's story is called The Tale of the Prince and the Ogress, and just to let you know how this is a story within a story, we first started off with, Anita will remember this because she's been listening every night. Hello Anita, she's one of our special guests. I should give you a prize for listening every night, you're so fantastic. And what has happened, and Anita might have to correct me on this, is we had an Ifrit, and Ifrit was being told why he was in trouble, for his deceit and for wanting to kill a merchant, and that he is going to have to face his day of reckoning before Allah. And he asks how this is so, and then he is told a story of a king called Yunan who is has leprosy, and no one throughout the land can cure him, and all his physicians and all his medics, whoever it is, no one can find a cure for this leprosy until this travelling physician comes into his city and discovers that he is ill, promises to cure him, does the same, miracle of miracles, and upon which the king lavishes him with lots and lots of gifts and thousands of gold dinars and fine clothes and a lovely house to live in. And one of his wazirs, however, one of the wazirs of the king, is very, very unhappy about this. He's a bit of an ugly man, very, very jealous, and he doesn't like the fact that the king is bestowing all of his wealthy goods, all his worldly goods on this physician called Duban, and starts to try and tell the king why he should stop doing this and make him angry as well. And initially, the king says, don't be silly. This is not true what you are saying. He is not a bad, because what this wazir says is that the Duban, the physician, will eventually kill him. And the king initially says, don't be silly. He is the best of men. He cured me when nobody else could cure me. It's absolutely ridiculous. And now the wazir is beginning to tell him stories as to why this man might be deceitful. And if you think about it, every single 1001 Night tale has a moral tale within it. And I believe this one, well, you work it out for yourself. So here we go. Are you sitting comfortably? Do you have your wine, your tea, your cocktail, your biscuit? If you are plugging in from a country outside of Vienna and outside of Europe even, then please do let me know that you've joined us. It would be lovely to hear that we've got people from all around the world listening in. That would be very, very exciting indeed. And if that is the case and you have just got up, then good morning. If you are going to go to bed soon, well then good night. If it's the middle of your day, bon appétit for your lunch that you're going to have. And otherwise, here we start. So, this is the tale of the prince and the ogress. So, and this is a tale that the wazir, the naughty, nasty wazir, is telling the king as to why he shouldn't trust the Duban, who the king likes very much. Okay, this is the wazir's story. A certain king who had a son overmuch given to hunting and coursing, ordered one of his wazirs to be in attendance upon him whithersoever he might wend. One day, the youth set out for the chase, accompanied by his father's minister. And, as they jogged on together, a big, wild beast came in sight. Cried the wazir to the king's son, "Up, and at you, noble quarry!" So the prince followed it, until he was lost to every eye, and the chase got away from him in the waste, whereby he was confused, and he knew not which way to turn, when lo, a damsel appeared ahead, and she was in tears. The king's son asked, "Who art thou?" And she answered, "I am daughter to a king among the kings of Hind, and I was travelling with a caravan in the desert, when drowsiness overcame me, and I fell from my beast unwittingly, whereby I am cut off from my people and sore bewildered." The prince, hearing these words, pitied her case, and mounting her on his horse's crupper, travelled until he had passed by an old ruin. When the damsel said to him, "Oh, my master, I wish to obey a call of nature." He therefore set her down to the ruin, where she delayed so long that the king's son thought she was only wasting time. So he followed her without her knowledge, and behold, she was a gullah, a wicked ogress, who was saying to her brood, "Oh, my children, this day I bring you a fine, fat youth for dinner." Whereto they answered, "Oh, bring him quick to us, oh, our mother, that we may browse upon him, our bellies full." The prince, hearing their talk, made sure of death, and his side muscles quivered in fear for his life. So he turned away and was about to fly. The gullah came out, and seeing him in sore affright, for he was trembling in every limb, cried, "Wherefore art thou afraid?" And he replied, "Well, I have been hit upon an enemy who I am greatly afeared." Asked the gullah, "Didst thou not say, I am a king's son?" And he answered, "Even so." Then quoth she, "Why dost thou not give thine enemy something of money, and so satisfy him?" Quoth he, "Well, he will not be satisfied with my purse, but only with my life, and I mortally fear him, and am a man under oppression." She replied, "If thou be so distressed, as thou deemest, ask aid against him from Allah, who will surely protect thee from his ill-doing and from the evil where thou art afraid. Then the prince raised his eyes heavenwards and cried, O thou, who answered the necessitous when he called upon thee, and dispellest his distress, O my God, I grant me victory over my foe, and turn him from me, for thou of all things art almighty. The Gula, hearing his prayer, turned away from him, and the prince returned to his father and told him the tale of the wazir, whereupon the king summoned the minister and to his presence, and then and there slew him. And now we get back to the story that the wazir was telling King Yunnan. See, thou likewise, O king, if thou continue to trust this leech, and that's Duban, if thou continue to trust this leech, shalt be made to die the worst of deaths. He, verily, thou made as such of whom thou entreatedest and as an intimate, will work thy destruction. Seest thou not how he healed the disease from outside thy body, by something grasped in thy hand? Be not assured that he will not destroy thee by something held in like manner, replied King Yunnan, because of course now he's getting turned. Thou hast spoken sooth, O wazir. It may be well as thou hinderest. O my well-advising minister, and belike this sage hath come as a spy, searching to put me to death, for assuredly, if he cured me by something held in my hand, he can kill me by something given to me to smell. Then asked King Yunnan, send after him this very instant, and summon him to my presence. And when he shall come, strike him across the neck. And thus shalt thou rid thyself of him and his wickedness, and deceive him ere he can deceive thee. Thou hast again spoken sooth, O wazir, said the king, and sent one to call the sage, who came in joyful mood, for he knew not what he was appointed for him from the compassionate. As a certain poet saith, by way of illustration, O, thou who fearest fate, confiding fair, trust all to him who built the world, and wait. What fate saith, be, perforce must be, my lord, and safe art thou from the undecreed of fate. As Duban the physician entered, he addressed the king in these lines. As I fail, I, all of my thanks to thee, nor thank thee day by day. For whom composed I prose and verse, for whom I say and lay. Thou lavished thy generous gifts ere they were craved by me. Thou lavished thy boons and sought sans pretext or delay. How shall I stint my praise of thee? How shall I cease to laud the grace of thee in serasy and paintest display? Nay, I will thank thy benefits, for I thy favours lie. Light on my thought and tongue, though heavy on my back they weigh. And he said further on the same theme, turn thee from grief, nor care a jaunt. Commit thy needs to fate and lot. Enjoy the present, passing well, and let the past be clean forgot. For what so happily seemeth worse, shall work thy wheel as Allah wot. Allah shall whate'er he wills, and in his will oppose him not. And further still, to the all-wise subtle, O trust worldly things, Rest thee from all whereto the worldlings clings. Learn wisely, well taught cometh by thy will, but e'en as willeth Allah, King of kings. And lastly, gladsome and gay forget thine ever grief. Full often grief the wisest hearts at war. Thought is but folly in the feeble slave. Shun it, and so be savoured evermore. Said the king for sole return, knowest thou why I have summoned thee? And the sage replied, Allah most highest alone kenneth hidden thoughts. But the king rejoined, I summoned thee only to take thy life, and utterly to destroy thee. Duban the wise wondered at this strange address of exceeding wonder, and asked, O king, and wherefore wouldest thou slay me, and what ill have I done thee? And then he called to his sworder, and said, Strike me off the head of this traitor, and deliver us from his evil practices. Quoth the sage, Spare me, and Allah will spare thee. Slay me not, or Allah will slay thee. And he repeated to him these very words, even as I to thee, O Ifrit, and that thou wouldest not let me go, being bent upon my death. King Yunan only rejoiced. I shall not be safe without slaying thee, for as thou healest me by something held in hand, so I am not secure against thy killing me by something given me to smell or otherwise. Said the physician, This then, O king, is thy requital and reward. Thou returnest only evil for good. The king replied, There is no help for it. Die thou must, and without delay. Now, when the physician was certified that the king would slay him without waiting, he wept, and regretted the good he had done to the other. And one hath said on this subject, Of wit and wisdom is bare, whose sire in wisdom all the wits outstrippeth. Man may not tread on mud or dust or clay, save by good sense, else trippeth he and slippeth. Hereupon the sworder stepped forward and bound the sage Duban's eyes and bared his blade, saying to the king, By thy leave. While the physician wept and cried, Spare me, and Allah will spare thee, and slay me not, or Allah will slay thee, and began repeating, I was kind, and escaped not, they were cruel, and escaped, and my kindness only led me to ruination hall. If I live, I'll ne'er be kind, if I die, then all be damned, who follow me and curses their kindness befall. In this, continued Durban, the return I meet from thee. Thou givest me Messiahs, but crocodile boon. Quoth the king, What is the tale of the crocodile? And quoth the physician, Impossible for me to tell it in this my state. Allah upon thee spare me, as thou hopest Allah shall spare thee. And he wept with exceeding weeping. Then one of the king's favourites stood up and said, O king, grant me the blood of this physician. We have never seen him sin against thee, or doing aught save healing thee from a disease which baffled every leech and man of science. Said the king, Ye, what not the cause of my putting to death this physician, and this is it. If I spare him, I do myself to certain death. For one who healed me from such a malady by something held in my hand, surely can slay me by something held to my nose. And I fear, lest he kill me for a price, since happily he is some spy whose sole purpose in coming hither was to compass my destruction. So there is no help for it. Die he must, and then only shall I be sure of my own life. Again cried the Duban, spare me, and Allah shall spare thee. Slay me not, or Allah shall slay thee. But it was in vain. Now, when the physician, O Ifrit, knew for certain that the king would kill him, he said, O king, if there need be no help but I must die, grant me some little delay, that I may go down to my house and release myself from mine obligations, and direct my folk and my neighbours where to bury me, and distribute my books of medicine. And amongst these I have one, the rarest of rarities, which I would present to thee as an offering. Keep it as a treasure in thy treasury. And what is this in this book? Asked the king. And the sage answered, things beyond compt. And the least of secrets is that if, directly after thou hast cut off my head, thou open 3 leaves and read 3 lines of the page to thy left hand, my head shall speak and answer every question thou deignest ask of it. The king wondered with exceeding wonder, and shaking with delight at the novelty, said, O physician, dost thou really mean to tell me that when I cut off thy head, it will speak to me? He replied, Yes, O king. Quoth the king, This is indeed a strange matter, and forthwith sent him closely guarded to his house, and Duban then and there settled all his obligations. Next day he went up to the king's audience hall, where emirs and wazirs, chamberlains and nabobs, grandees and lords of estate were gathered together, making the presence chamber gay as a garden of flower beds. And lo, the physician came up and stood before the king, bearing a worn old volume and a little etui of metal full of powder, like that used for the eyes. Then he sat down and said, Give me a tray. So they brought him one, and he poured the powder upon it and levelled it, and lastly spake as follows, O king, take this book, but do not open it until my head falls. Then set my head upon this tray, and bid press it down upon the powder. When the forthright the blood will cease flowing. This is the time to open the book. The king thereupon took the book and made a sign to the sworder, who arose and struck off the physician's head, and placing it on the middle of the tray, pressed it down upon the powder. The blood stopped flowing, and the sage Duban unclosed his eyes and said, Now open the book, O king. The king opened the book and found the leaves struck together. So he put his finger to his mouth by moistening it. He easily turned over the first leaf, and in like way the second and the third, each leaf opening with much trouble. And when he had unstuck 6 leaves, He looked over them and finding nothing written thereon, said, "Well, O physician, there is nothing writing here. There is no writing here." And Douban replied, "Turn over yet more." And he turned over 3 others in the same way. Now, the book was poisoned, and before long, the venom penetrated the king's system, and he fell into strong convulsions, and he cried out, "The poison hath done its work!" Whereupon the sage Douban's head began to improvise. There be rulers who have ruled with foul tyrannic sway, but they soon became as though they had never been. Just, they had won justice. They oppressed and were oppressed by fortune, who requited them with ban and bane and teen. So they faded like the morn, and the tongue of things repeats, "Take this for that, nor vent upon fortune's ways thy spleen." No sooner had the head ceased speaking than the king rolled over dead. Now, I would have thee know, O Ifrit, that if King Yunnan had spared the sage Douban, Allah would have spared him. But he refused so to do, and decreed to him dead, wherefore Allah slew him. And thou too, O Ifrit, if thou hadst spared me, Allah would have spared thee. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. And then quoth her sister, Dunyazad, "O my sister, how pleasant is thy tale, and how tasteful, how sweet, and how grateful." And she replied, "Where is this compared with what I could tell thee this coming? Where is this compared with what I could tell you this coming night, if I live, and the king spare me?" Said the king in himself, "By Allah, I will not slay her until I hear the rest of her story, for truly it is wondrous." And they rested that night in mutual embrace until dawn. Then the king went forth to his durbar, and the wazirs and the troops came in, and the audience hall was crowded. So the king gave orders, and judged, and appointed, and deposed, and bade and forbade the rest of that day. When the court broke up, and King Shahryar entered his palace. Now, the next story, dear friends, actually starts on Shahrazad's 6th night. And have we caught up? I believe we have. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, we're behind. Shahrazad is telling her story. Wait, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're on Friday now. She's ahead of us. She's 2 days ahead of us. She's telling her story faster than we're telling her story. I think we're going to have to pick up the pace a little bit and read a bit longer each night. I really hope you have enjoyed tonight's reading. It has been an absolute pleasure reading to you once again. I hope you like my little bits of sparkle this evening and my princess finery. I wanted to let you know that I put something on our Vienna Theatre Project page. Two friends of mine who work in London's West End. One of them is called Christopher Hamilton, and he is a composer of music and composes musicals as well. And for any of you who remember way back in the day, gosh, it must be 10 years ago now, we did, I think it must have been our second musical. Oh, I'm going to take this off now. Our second musical, and it was called Over the Threshold. It was a huge hit and got lots of 5-star praises, maybe even an award at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and then after that moved to London's West End. And his partner, Shimi Goodman, who is an actor and also a musical actor and dancer, and has sung in shows like Chicago in London's West End, are also doing living room concerts. And they had their first living room concert 2 days ago, and I asked if I could put this up on the Vienna Theatre Project page, and they said yes. They also had a few minor sound issues. It seems, by the way, if any of you are interested and want to record things, I'm going to tell you now, because we've discovered this. We discovered this the other night when Dave Moskin did his living room to living room concert for us, and Christopher, Shimmy and I discovered it 2 days ago when I watched their concert on Instagram. So if you continue watching them, you can see the concert on Instagram on your iPhone or your iPad. Because they recorded it on 3 different pieces of equipment, actually, the iPhone and iPad, and for Facebook they recorded it on their computer, and their very expensive Macs do not record well. Let this be a lesson to you, that you know this, that Macs do not record very well. They're very expensive computers, but funnily enough, iPads and iPhones and other smartphones, etc. do. So I hope you know this. Now, just want to let you know, tomorrow evening, Saman will be reading. Then we're going to have 2 nights off because we need a little bit of a break to recuperate. And in those 2 nights, I am going to be approaching all the people that wrote to me at the very beginning when I started this venture and said they would like to contribute something. I haven't written to them yet because I've been doing other things as well and had lots of meetings this week. And, oh, hi, Saman. Saman's going to be reading to you tomorrow night. I'm going to ask them, we are going to ask them if they will contribute something. So hopefully by next week we will have some readings. It's very strange, I'm looking at my computer and I've just seen myself wave. We will have them, hopefully we will have a reading from some of his short stories by Robert Pym, maybe an opera singer online. Have to see. What I did want to let you know is I have been asked by Metropole magazine in English, and if you don't know them, you really should buy their magazines and watch them online. On their Facebook page you can follow them. They're actually also giving some really interesting information and daily updates on what is going on in our world at the moment with the thing that we are all staying in self-isolation for. So they've got an update page on that. They also have a Facebook page, Metropole in English. They bring out a magazine every quarter, but they update. Anyone who's a follower of theirs and buys their books can also get into their on their website page. If you don't subscribe, then you will be party to different bits of news. If you do subscribe, then you're party to daily or weekly new articles and so on, what's going on in Vienna at the moment, all that kinds of great restaurants to go and eat at, interesting arts information, lots of interesting stuff like that. It was a really great magazine. Anyway, they asked me if I would do a reading from a modern play for them tomorrow, so I'm going to do 20 minutes of something by Alan Bennett called Her Last Chance or something, I think. And I'll be doing that for 20 minutes and then doing Q&A with them afterwards. I think about directing or acting or something. So make sure you tune into Metropole tomorrow. I think it might be at 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm not sure. I'll post it on my page and I'll post it on the Vienna Theatre Project page. I want to wish you all a wonderful evening. I hope you had a really fantastic time listening to the reading this evening. I hope you have a fantastic evening, a fantastic day. If you tune into this later and you're in the middle of your day, at any time of the day, I hope it's going to be very beautiful. I hope you manage to catch some sunshine or some great music or a lovely film or another lovely book, whatever it is that your heart desires. If you want to catch Chris and Shimmy, Christopher's going to be at his piano in their home from their living room, playing wonderful songs from things like Irving Berlin, things that Barbara Streisand would sing from famous old musicals. It's a real treat. They're both of them extremely talented, so watch the link that I sent on that. And other than that, many salams from me. You won't see me tomorrow. You'll see Saman, and you'll see me again. Well, you'll see me on Saturday. If you tune into Metropole, you'll definitely see me reading from 1001 Arabian Nights on Tuesday. And the music's finished, which means I have to go too. Bye everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.